Okay, full transparency, I'm making this review kind of rushed. I'm working on a massive video that should be out by Friday. I hope. I really want it to be out by Friday, but I can spare just a few minutes to spread the word of what I just watched. I love Chainsaw Man. Even after going on a little anime hiatus, Chainsaw Man was the show that I was drawn into and immediately fell in love with. There's just really not a show like Chainsaw Man. So I was looking forward to see how the Reze arc would be adapted in a film because I heard it was the best part of part 1, or at least one of the strongest arcs from part 1. Full transparency, I don't read. I used to read a lot of comic books, but outside of that, I don't really read that much. Like, I literally just picked up the Absolute Batman series for the first time, and that's the first comic book I've ever purchased with my own money in like years. And the same can be applied with stuff like manga, as I have not read the Chainsaw Man manga yet. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I didn't know a single thing about the Reze arc going into the film, and coming out of it, holy shit.
Hey, Peggy, let me talk to him one time. Hold up.
I'll keep it as brief as I can be, not only because I'm working on a separate video, but also because with movies like this, I usually like to not really reveal that much. I'm going to be trying my hardest not to overhype this film, but oh my god, it will be really hard to not to. Because to say my expectations were completely blown away from this film would be the understatement of a lifetime, dude. The first half of this film is essentially just one giant romance movie between Reze and Denji's relationship. And I can see a lot of people being disappointed by this factor, but I think what definitely did help is just the simple fact that Denji and Reze are just so fun to watch on screen together. They have really good chemistry, and I really loved watching them interact. Denji's whole conflict in this film is the fact that he loves Makima, but also loves Reze. And while on paper that sounds really dumb, 1, this is Chainsaw Man, what do you expect? And 2, in execution, it's a lot more deeper than that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time that Denji's whole situation kind of got pointed out in the show. How despite him being the Chainsaw Demon, despite him being able to do all this cool stuff, he's still a teenager at the end of the day, and it doesn't make sense for him to not get the average teenage experience. And I really like the fact that it kind of highlights how underdeveloped Denji is as a human being. The fact that he never really got to experience what true love is before Reze. How throughout the film, every time him and Reze is doing something, he feels this guilt that he's betraying Makima when he doesn't realize this is what love actually is. It also does just help that Reze is just an entertaining character on her own. She's definitely best with Denji, but I also thought a lot of the scenes without him were very entertaining, and honestly she might be my favorite character to get introduced in this universe that isn't part of the main cast. And in general, it's really nice to see a character for once being actually really kind and sweet to Denji. And it makes for certain events at the end of the story all the more tragic. I also think the stuff with Aki and Angel, while interesting, was a little bit underdeveloped, to be honest. Especially since the last season had a lot to do with Aki and his life, and the way this movie kind of balances the themes of what kind of life you truly want to live. It feels like kind of a missed opportunity to really expand on his character a bit more here. But I get it, I'd rather have more time with Denji and Reze if it meant that Aki would feel just slightly a bit underdeveloped, and Angel's whole thing kind of feeling a bit rushed. I also think the animation is nothing below gorgeous, dude. Chainsaw Man has always had such beautiful animation, but I think this movie takes it to such an extreme. And I mean that in the best way possible. My jaw was literally dropping at some of these scenes. The trailers do not do this movie enough justice. Even the first half of the film had so many scenes that were just jaw-droppingly gorgeous, and it really enhanced the scene. Like the whole skinny dipping scene. I know how that sounds out of context, but please trust me, that scene is actually really beautiful. Just looks beautiful with the reflections on the water and stuff like that. Just like, oh my god, I can rave about this movie's animation all day. And I also really love how this movie doesn't really hold back on anything. I can't really get into specifics without spoiling, but this movie, like the show, does not hold back on killing certain characters, especially in that second half, which is just batshit insane. I also just love how much they are willing to show how oblivious, I think is the right word, Denji truly is. I think what makes Denji such an interesting protagonist compared to a lot of other shonen protagonists is the simple fact that he feels a lot more grounded than like a Deku or a Naruto. His actions do get people killed, and it's not the fact that he doesn't care, it's the fact that he doesn't realize. I've actually had this conversation with my dad, which is what got me thinking about this in general. But for me at least, I think it's interesting to see a character like Denji, who is still a kid, being thrown into all these situations even though he never really got the chance to be a child. Him being kind of stupid is his biggest weakness. Like, his whole thing is that he wants to get with girls. His whole goal that he's working towards is to get with Makima. It at times almost feel like a parody of like other anime similar to it, but maybe that's just me looking a little too deep into it. And with the introduction of Reze, it teaches him what it actually means to love someone, to be emotionally connected with someone, to be with someone who genuinely loves you for you. It's not just a transactional relationship. And a lot of that doesn't have to necessarily only apply to his relationships, but also just the situation he's in general. Because being a kid like Denji isn't good for him. It's just a situation that he doesn't realize he's in. It's really hard to talk about my favorite parts about this film without spoiling everything, so all I'm just gonna say is I love Chainsaw Man Reze Arc. I thought it was a fantastic film. I love this relationship between Denji and Reze, and it's probably gonna end up being one of my favorite films of the year. I think Sinners is still my favorite movie of the year, but goddamn, this is a very close second. A lot of the things in this movie got me feeling things that I haven't felt in a while, especially in like a cinema. And just in general, I fucking adore this film. I keep going back and forth between a 9.5 and a 10, because theoretically I do have little nitpicks with the film, but at the end of the day, this film is just so good to me. I think I'm gonna go with a 9.5 just to play it a little safe. But that is still an incredibly high score, and I think it deserves every single amount of praise it gets. Oh my god.